Hey, everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee,
Hey everybody, Sal Baglio.
And Bruce Brodeen.
and you are watching Skips and Scratches.
I bought a brand new record, 12 inches. I bought a brand new record, 12 inches. It's a big old record, it's 12 inches.
Welcome to this episode of Skips and Scratches. My name is Steve Schnee, and I'd like to introduce two gentlemen who will be joining me on this journey talking about record store memories. To your left, to my right, the guy with the glasses, that's Mr. Sal Baglio. A lot of you will know him from his records with the Stompers, the Amplifier Heads, Rocky Rollins, and Salvatore Baglio. And I'd like to introduce him to you at this exact moment. Sal.
How are you, Steve-O? Good to see you.
Good to see you. The person kind of in the center of everything. This is the man who put power pop on the map. I mean, well, Pete Townsend actually put it on the map. Bot Magazine. Oh, okay, well, you know what I'm saying. Bruce Brodeen is a man that doesn't need any introduction, and that was quite obvious from what I just said. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bruce, not Lame Recordings, Brodeen.
A warm, powerful peace and pop to you all. I so look forward to what we're going to be probing and excavating here with our memories from the distant past. This is going to be a lot of fun, Steve.
When it comes to music, the experience, I think Sal was probably in his 30s when the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan, right? Is that right, Sal? No.
You said it. I did.
Oh, you're giving me too much time. You're being too kind, Steve.
But you see, a lot of people will say, that they heard a certain song on the radio or they saw something on television and it really affected them, or their friends told them about it. But to me, the record store was just as important as, the inner sleeve and, and the record and the label and the smell, once you cracked the shrink wrap. The record store experience, when you walked in and when you saw these familiar faces, sometimes you smelt that wooden floor, or you smelt incense, or back then they smoked cigarettes and other things in record stores. That was just a whole part of the experience. So when I think back to those times, that's what I remember. I remember the whole thing. I don't remember just putting the needle down on the record. I remember walking home with that record in a bag.
It's resurgent for many reasons, Spaz. And that's my hope, in this discussion or discussions as we go forward, that it's going to provide a trigger into dark, lost memories, but that aren't dark, that are actually, quite transcendent, because these are seared, many of these moments, for people of our generation. I'm getting ready to turn 58 here in July. And I think it's a shared collective experience of a lot of music geeks for people of our generation, where they had these encounters that are connected to very specific groups and pieces of vinyl that are really permanent fixtures, but I think for many are lost, and then we don't really necessarily have the opportunity to be able to talk to others that are simpatico and have similar kind of deep, geeky, profound experiences as we have. It's just we don't have those opportunities necessarily in the communities that we now live. But hey, let's get going and start talking about some tunes.
Yeah. Sal Baglio, I'm going to start with you. Let's say, what's the first record that you remember getting?
I need to say that the first records that I remember being in the house, I don't know that I received these. They were just there. Was probably, I might have been 2 years old, 3 years old. Purple People Eater and The Witch Doctor. Those were big in my house. Now, those came out in 1958. I was born in 57. So perhaps my memory is a couple of years after they came out. I don't know. I could remember them on this big record player in the kitchen of our apartment in East Boston, and listening to those tunes, and they drove me out of my mind. I just jump around, and I loved it. The music was there from the day I was born. My father being a musician, and my grandfather on my mother's side, and I had an older brother who was a musician. So music and sound was just there when I popped out. And but the first record that my parents gave me was an album called Deuces and Eights by the New Dimensions, and it was a record of all car hot rod songs, instrumental. I've never heard of this band. I didn't ask for it. Somehow they just thought maybe I would like that. It was 1963.
What about you, Bruce?
Well, this is not to overtout my cool cred, but I think I came out of the gate pretty freaking stellar, I have to say. Now, I'm going to preface that and say that with all those Beatle records in the background, my first music memories are of listening to the Beatles on those old console stereos. Remember those big, heavy wooden 300-pound consoles that you drop the record into some cavernous little crater, and hit a button, and that you put the needle down, and it invariably always skipped all over the vinyl. And I would listen to the Beatles, and it was strange. I had this like Pavlovian response to the Beatles, where I would sit in my chair, console in front of me, drop the Beatles record on, and in this case, it was the White Album. Keep in mind, I'm about 6-7 years old at this stage, and Abbey Road and Let It Be. Those are the three albums that I played in the late 60s. And I would just chew like on the corner of the wooden kind of console. And to this day, you can see my teeth marks are all over the wood. And I would just gnaw and just be completely transfixed. However, the first record I got was like many kids for Christmas that I owned in the Christmas 1971, and we went shopping at a mall. Which back then, Sal, you'll remember this, going to the mall on the North Shore. I was living in Lynn then, and my family moved. He had moved to Needham, I think, by then. But going to the mall was a big deal. We're both Bostonians, by the way, Sal and myself. And we went to the mall, and I had heard Get It On, Bang a Gong, on the radio. And I knew it was a band called T-Rex. So I told my sister that was the album that I wanted, Electric Warrior, and that I wanted that for Christmas. So my mom clandestinely bought the record, which I knew because I was watching from outside during the purchase. And before Christmas hit, I did grab the record from where the Christmas gifts were hidden and opened up, the cellophane on it, hoping that I was figuring she didn't know what that meant with wrapping a record, because I never saw her buy records, even though we had tons of records.
Yeah.
In terms of like church music and classical music. And I listened to it beforehand at really low volumes. But anyway, T-Rex Electric Warrior was my number one. And it changed my life. From Mark Bolan, I quickly went to Iggy Pop, to the MC5, to the New York Dolls, but also threw myself into funk music and prog rock and all kinds of crazy things over the next few months.
My brain is so discombobulated in terms of, I don't remember kind of like the exact, I remember like one of my first records that I ever got for myself that was my own, that nobody else wanted to listen to, was the first Sesame Street record in 1969, with Abkey, Jackie, Jackamanaka Suitzes and I Love Trash. But I do remember before that, my parents would have Beatles albums, and so they'd be playing Beatles 6 or something new, and we would love it, and we would borrow it from them. So then during Christmas, they would just wrap their own albums, and then they would give them to me and my brother Mike. And But you see, we kind of knew that, but at the same time, it was awesome because now we had our own Beatles records. That's it for this episode of Skips and Scratches. My name is Steve Schnee.
All right, everybody, keep a nickel on that tone arm. This is Sal B saying, see you next week.
And I'm Bruce Brodeen, and as always, pop on.
Remember to share, comment, like, and subscribe. Remember to click the bell and get notifications. And we'll see you next time on Skips and Scratches.